State Lottery Commission meeting is now in session. It is noted for the record that commissioners are attending this meeting via a web meeting and a quorum of commissioners is present for today's meeting. Today's meeting is being live streamed on the internet and a link is posted on the Oregon Lottery website. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Patel?
Here.
Commissioner Telfer?
Here.
Commissioner Wilcox?
Here.
Chair Safoff?
Here. For the record, we have a quorum. Will the clerk please inform the commission of who else is in the meeting?
Yes, Director Barry Pack, Janelle Simmons, Kathy Ortega, Kathy Stromberg, Chris Scaro, Matt Shelby, and Ty Colandrello.
Great, thank you. Members of the public had the opportunity to provide written comments to the commission for this meeting. A full copy of the written comments that were received were provided to the commissioners in advance of the meeting and will be posted on the commission meeting website. Will the clerk please read the public comments that were received for the record?
Yes, the following comment was provided by Kitty Martz, person in recovery from addiction to Oregon lottery products. Chair Safoff and honorable commissioners, your video lottery terminals are again disabled in an attempt to curb the transmission of COVID-19. These addictive machines are frequented by older adults and people with medical vulnerabilities. Players often do not wear masks while gambling on Oregon lottery machines. One need only order a glass of water to be exempt from wearing a mask while gambling in your venues. The Oregon Lottery has the technology to determine if machines are disabled between players as required, with the intention to verify that the machines are sanitized. You did not pull this data to determine compliance or issue consequences to venues who failed to disable and sanitize machines between players. Oregon has experienced nearly 60,000 COVID cases and 800 deaths this year. I'm concerned the Oregon Lottery failed to ensure that its players were safe and that pressure to recoup revenue will again eclipse our well-being. I look forward to hearing what, if anything, you plan to do differently going forward. And that concludes the public comment.
Thank you, Lisa. With that, let's move to Commissioner Communications. We have an audit committee update, and maybe we'll start with that and then move to any other commissioners that have comments to make, including Director Pack. Commissioner Patel?
Hi. Yesterday we had the audit committee, and during the audit committee, we had a report out on the Visa card program review, which was completed. The objective of that program was of the review was to assess the effectiveness of management controls over the Visa card program. And a result of the audit was that the internal audit team obtained reasonable assurance that the cards were used appropriately and according with OAM requirements and the internal operating procedures of the lottery. In that meeting, we also completed an annual review of management's corrective actions for open audit recommendations that had been issued by internal audit. There were a total of 10 open audit recommendations over the past year, with none of them being high risk, and 4 of the medium risks were closed. And so there's still 6 remaining audit recommendations open.
Thank you, Commissioner Patel. I'll open this now if there are communications from any of the other commissioners that they would like to use this time to discuss or share.
Well, I'd just like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and we all do have things to be thankful this year. We may have to search for those, but I wanted to just wish everybody a safe Thanksgiving next week.
Chris, it's a great reminder. I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday as well, however you're managing it next week. Thank you.
This is Commissioner Wilcox. I kind of echo those sentiments from what she said, and also being a former law enforcement officer, I just want to remind everybody that weather conditions are changing. It's getting pretty bad out there in many areas. Crashes are up. I still follow the news releases from Oregon State Police, and it's getting pretty bad statewide. And I just want to remind everybody to use caution, drive responsibly, and let's get through this pandemic safely. And that's it.
Thanks, Julie. Great comment. Hearing no further communications, Barry, would you like to give your director's report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would. I'd like to start today by congratulating Field Sales Representative Monica Majors for winning NASPL's Ott Brown Scholarship Award. This is a single award given to one lottery employee across all of North America each year. That award was announced last month at NASPL's National Conference, which some of you may remember we hosted a few years ago, but it was virtual this year, and they called it NASPL Desk Con. I was proud to nominate Monica, and I'm happy she now has the chance to develop her industry knowledge and leadership skills at an upcoming NASPL Lottery Leadership Seminar. The 2020 Charitable Fund Drive met the challenge of a lottery staff working largely from home to earn thousands of dollars for statewide charities. This year, lottery staff raised nearly $9,000 for Oregon charities. 2020 has proven to be an exceptionally difficult year, and while the total raised was down compared to years past, I'm proud that folks still came together to raise funds for worthy causes. We'll build on that momentum now as we turn our attention to the holiday toy drive. As the statewide freeze intended to slow the spread of COVID-19 went into effect this week, all video lottery terminals are temporarily taken offline. From an operations standpoint, taking the steps to comply with this directive was relatively simple. Unfortunately, we have practice at it. As we did before, we will share as much as we can, as soon as we can, with our retail partners. These are trying times, and we will do all we can to support them. I'd also like to take a moment now and speak to our staff. Responding to the first shutdown, we took immediate and serious steps to reduce our operating expenses and slow down projects and other planned investments where we could to bolster lottery's financial position, fully expecting future waves of COVID-19 infections and subsequent restaurant and bar closures. While we don't yet know how long this freeze will last, at this time, we believe those steps we took earlier this year put us in a strong position to weather this latest storm. On the sales front, we continued our strong showing this month and are down just 2.4% from the previous year. Video lottery has been performing at or above last year's weekly sales for the past 6 weeks. Will obviously change with a statewide freeze, but it is still a good sign for when these current restrictions are eased. Scratch-Its continue to perform more than 25% over last year's revenues. We anticipate a further increase while video lottery is unavailable. Keno performed strongly in recent weeks, but we anticipate a significant decline with the COVID-19 restrictions on bars, taverns, and restaurants. There's nothing particularly notable on the big jackpot games. However, all three are on an upward trajectory with their jackpot levels heading into the holiday season. Scoreboard continued its strong performance in October, where more than 900,000 individual wagers accounted for more than $20 million wagered. Gross revenue for the month was $2.7 million. That equates to a healthy 9.3% margin. The most popular sport by far was football, followed by soccer and baseball. And finally, we have a couple winner stories. As we'll be addressing the second chance rule later in the meeting, I'm going to share a couple of recent second chance winners. George P. in the Southern Oregon town of, this is going to challenge me. Is it Weimer? It's a good question. Has been buying Scratch-Its, maybe 2 or 3 a week for quite some time. And like a lot of Scratch-It fans, he's discovered the opportunity to enter his non-winning tickets into second chance drawings for a final chance at the game's top prize of $50,000. That doesn't mean he was prepared, however, when he recently got some very good news. One of George's Wild Tens Scratch-Its had been drawn as the second chance winner. Quote, "I had a hard time believing it," George said when he recently came to Salem with his significant other, Jean, to collect his prize. "I'm still having a hard time believing it." George and Jean plan to do a little celebrating before George gets serious about replacing his van, maybe with a vehicle that can tow a travel trailer. And Stefani W. of Heppner knew she had to play the Hot 7 Scratch It game because of the $77,000 top prize. Quote, "My parents were married in 1977, and 77 has always been my lucky number," said Stefani. "So when I saw that the top prize was $77,000, I had to play it." Despite spotting her lucky number, she didn't win the top prize with her ticket purchase. Luckily, she knew that she could enter her non-winning Scratch It into the lottery's second chance drawing for a final chance at the $77,000 top prize. "I got the email saying I'd won, but I couldn't believe it. I called the lottery and asked if it was a scam, and they said it's definitely not." Stefani collected her prize and will be having some fun with her unexpected windfall. And that concludes my report for this month, Madam Chair. I'm happy to answer any questions from the commission.
Thanks, Barry. Questions, comments from the commission? Hearing none, we'll move to the next agenda item, the minutes of the previous commission meeting. The minutes of the previous commission meeting have been circulated to the commission. If there are no changes to the minutes, is there a motion to approve?
I move that the minutes of the Oregon State Lottery Commission meeting held on October 23rd, 2020 be approved as final as presented today.
Thanks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Telfer,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Sathoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. Thank you. We'll move to our next agenda item with Kathy Ortega on the financial report.
Yes, good morning, Chair Sathoff, Commissioners, Director Pack. For the record, my name is Kathy Ortega, Chief Financial Officer for the Oregon Lottery. And we're here to briefly go over the operating statement for October and the 4 months of this current fiscal year. In viewing the monthly operating statement for the month of October, we have a $14.6 million revenue variance. We have a couple of line items, public information, which includes it's just a slight timing difference. A couple of comments on game equipment's parts and maintenance. We did order some game sets, and those game sets were budgeted in a different period. So there's a slight variance there. And under commissions, I think I mentioned last month that I was looking at this, but what we found is that with we changed commission calculations and structures first of this fiscal year, and in doing so, we didn't have any historical information to develop a tiered budget approach, which is what we've done in the past. We had to take an annualized rate and apply it to each month throughout the year, which the end result is that in the early months in the year, in the higher tiers, we show a larger negative variance, and as retailers fall through the tiers, that will reverse itself. And to the extent that everybody hits that overall tiered rate by the end of the year, the variance should equalize itself. So I'm just going to call that a budgeting variance because we have limited data with which to develop the budget this year. Hopefully next year we'll have some history and it can be a little bit more accurate. Net profit, we had a positive variance of 9.6 million for the month. And looking at the year-to-date statement, we have $15.5 million net revenue variance. And as you can see on most of those categories, with the exception of commissions, we are positive on a year-to-date basis, resulting in a net profit variance of a positive 5.1 million on a year-to-date basis. We have some minor differences on the schedule of services and supplies. I would describe these as mostly just slight budget variances. And I also have the balance sheet for your consideration today. And with that, I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Questions
Kathy,
or comments? Go ahead.
Kathy, this is Chris. I have a question. Given the uncollectible allowance, what is our policy, on terminating somebody or collecting? I mean, what is our policy, current policy? And given the situation, the economic situation, should we be addressing that and changing that? I see it's still on the books, second month in a row. So I'm just curious what our policy is. Refresh my memory.
Right. Well, just as a reminder for all, that does represent just one larger retailer. And that was a result of the first go rounds of shutdown. And so most retailers did respond and rebound and pay any outstanding bills. And so historically we did not, other than the single retailer, we did not really experience a lot of widespread losses. Our policy is that retailers that cannot post a bond when they go NSF are they're up for consideration and review, but if they want to remain operational, they're going to have to go on a payment plan, post a bond. We look at them individually. We would shut them off if we feel that it's a risk. And so we do have a great degree of control over the exposure that we have, either via posting bonds, payment plans, that sort of thing. So the overall policy is that we have a number of tools in our toolbox with which to control that exposure, and we look at it from a risk perspective and handle it accordingly.
No, I would just add, Commissioner Telford, that during the COVID shutdowns of video lottery, both initially and in this go around, we have waived a $50 NSF fee for any retailer with video lottery that does not have funds to pay. And then we contact the retailers and are offering them a 3-month payment plan, which would begin in early January, so that they have hopefully they have a good solid month to recover before we ask them to start paying any other plans. We also aren't charging, we also did not charge network charges for 2 months in the initial round, and we are looking at whether we can do the same this time around.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. So it sounds to me as if we have flexibility on the time frame in which somebody gets current.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Barry or Kathy, have we had good luck with our payment plans in the past? I mean, have they been useful tools that people generally work their debt out under?
Just to respond to that, Commissioner, yes, we do. And we've had remarkable success from them. And I think it's largely because retailers know that if they can't get current and can't get caught up, they're not going to be able to sell lottery anymore. So They do find that business valuable and want to maintain the relationship.
Great.
And I would say that our retailers were very grateful at the flexibility. They understood that we have a responsibility to collect dollars owed, but they appreciated that we understood the difficulty they were in as well.
Great. Other questions or comments from the commission? Well, the good news, it looks to me like we continue to overachieve in terms of our budget. I know that this new lockdown will have some impact, but it looks to me like we're still going to be pretty much close on target to the budget we expected. Is that your assessment, Kathy and Barry?
If you're referring back to the budget that we set in June,
Yeah.
Get my J's in the right place here. Yes, we are well ahead of that. And I mean, it's hard to say what this most recent lockdown will bring,
Right.
but we're still way ahead, and that is providing us some relief with this next round coming up.
That is what I was intending. All right, great. Is there a motion to approve the monthly financial statements?
I move that the Oregon State Lottery financial statements for month ended October 31st, 2020 be approved for the record as presented today.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Telfer,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Safoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. Kathy, is that everything from you then?
Yes, it is. And I would just like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. With that, let's move to rulemaking. Chris Scaro, I know you're on.
Thank you, Chair Sathoff, Commissioners, Director Pack. For the record, my name is Chris Scaro, Rules and Policy Analyst for Lottery. As usual, we have one rulemaking item on your agenda this morning. I reported back in September that Lottery was proposing some modest updates to the second chance drawing rules. And as Director Pack mentioned in his report, Second Chance is a popular promotion we've offered since 2013, where folks can go online and enter their non-winning tickets into a drawing for a free second chance to win a prize. It's a fairly popular promotion with about 80,000 tickets entered every week. We had proposed some modest updates to the rules to reflect all current eligibility, entry, and prize claiming requirements. The changes are consistent with the current requirements for second chance drawings, and then we also added specific reference to the ability to enter second chance through the mobile app, which is a feature our players have requested that we are hoping to launch before the end of the year. We have completed the rulemaking process for the rule changes, and we have documented the process for the public in the rulemaking report that's provided in today's meeting materials. But just a few highlights for the record. We filed notice with the Secretary of State on September 25th. We notified interested parties, legislators, and media contacts. We had a 5-week written comment period, during which time we did receive one comment by email that I provided in full to the Commission and Director for consideration. It's also summarized in the report, but briefly, it was essentially opposed to any changes to second chance, although nothing specific in the rules to call your attention to, but wanted to acknowledge that comment. We also had a public rulemaking hearing over Zoom, but we did not receive any comments at the hearing. Also in the meeting materials, you have the final rule text showing all changes. Director Pack has reviewed the rules and considered all comment received and does recommend the Commission adopt the rules as reflected in your materials. That's all I have on these second chance rules. Happy to answer questions. Otherwise, you have a motion.
Questions or comments for Chris from the Commission? Hearing none, is there a motion to adopt the proposed rulemaking?
I move that OAR 177052 be amended as presented in the meeting materials today to be effective December 1st, 2020.
Thanks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Telfer,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Safoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. With that, I'll just stop here for a minute to ask if there's any other business that needs to be attended to today. Hearing none, I would like to add my thanks to all of you for the continued fine work you do. It has been a very difficult year. I think the lottery as people and as frankly as a business has weathered this as fine in as fine a manner as I could ask of any business. And I just really appreciate all of your continued empathy and your seeking of ways to meet the mandates and the needs of the state, but also understanding what's going on for people personally. So with that, I think this concludes today's meeting of the Oregon State Lottery Commission. The next meeting is scheduled on December 18, and I thank you all for attending. This meeting is adjourned. Bye, you guys.
Thanks, Marty. Happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
Thank you.